Hey, what's up? It's your girl, Constance Carter. I am here on FlyNubianQueen.com in partnership with Fly Nubian Queen, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Constance Carter. And I wanted to have a conversation with you today about the importance of having a living will or a living trust. The reason why I said this subject, the reason why I talked about it this way is because I've had so much experience in being in real estate and the effects of having a living trust or not having a living trust. I've had so many instances. It drives me nuts. A lot of times people think that if they have a will, if you have a will is pretty much only thing you need. So most people, most prudent people will, before they die or when they get to become a certain age, they'll make sure that they have a will, that their children are in a will. And most people think that that is enough. What you may not know is that a will be contested. Let me tell you that one more time. A will be contested. A will has almost no authority or no power once you die, especially when it comes to your assets. Why do I say that? A will is really just instructions, but there's no legal bearing on what a will is. A will gives instructions, but what will end up happening is you still have to go to what's called probate court. So I've had situations where I'm selling a house. I got siblings. These siblings are, my mama them age, and they are fighting with each other because they said, one of them said, mama wanted me to do this and mama wanted this and mama wanted that, but mama never set up a will, a living trust. Mama might have told one of the siblings that this is what she wanted for her property, but unless mama put it in a trust, then the judge actually ultimately has to decide what happens with that property. So if you own real estate and you say, you know what, I'm going to put my property, I'm going to do a will so that, if something happens to me, it'll get passed down to my children. And say, you got a cousin, in Mississippi somewhere. They say, you know what, Uncle Johnny told me that this was, that I was entitled to this property. A will can be contested. And even though that cousin Johnny came out of nowhere, or that cousin came out of nowhere, they still can contest a will, and you can end up going to court and paying a bunch of money to probate court. I'm sure you'll end up winning, but just for the mere fact that you got to go to court, you got to go to probate court to get it taken care of. It's time, it's money, it's a headache. I had a situation where there was a young couple. They purchased a house. They're in their 30s. In California, because I'm in California. California is a community property state. So when you buy a property, so say if I buy a property with my spouse, if something, something were to happen with me and my spouse, right? So say me and my spouse end up getting a divorce. Well, California is a community property state. He is entitled to half of that property. Okay, that's common knowledge. But what ended up happening to this couple is the husband bought the house in his name, and he was going to work one day, 38 years old, ended up getting into a car accident and died. Now he still has a wife and a small baby. I think maybe she was even pregnant at the time that he died, and a couple of small children. So when a few months later, 5 or 6 months later, she decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and sell the house. The house was not in her name. The house was in his name. She decided she wanted to go ahead and sell the house. And the judge said, nah, you can't sell the house. Well, wait a minute. California is a community property state. I'm entitled to half of this house, and I was married to this man. Well, your name's not on title, so you're not entitled to the property. And the judge said, you know what? No, you can't sell the house. She's like, well, why can't I sell the house? He said, because I don't think it's in the best interest of the children. So I don't want you to sell the house. So because the property was not in a living trust, she had no right to sell this property. It took her about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, so that she can get the right to sell her own property that she helped purchase with her husband. It just was not in her name. So this is why a living trust is so important, because a lot of attorneys will say, if you have a will, it will be contested. There's nothing that you can do. So if you have, say you have a property, and again, if you decide that, I decide that I want my kids to have the property, or I want my wife to have the property, that's fine, as long as they're living in it, as long as they keep it. But once they decide to sell the property, then it becomes an issue, because they have no right to sell the property. Then it has to go to probate court. Then the judge has to decide. That's very costly. So what a will can do is, it can name a guardian. Okay, well, I want you to be the guardian of my child once I go. Okay. I want you to manage the property. Okay. I want you to be the executor of my property. Yeah, a will can do that. It can instruct on how taxes should be paid, on how the bills should be paid. But what a will can't do is, it can't legally pass a property from one person to another. It can't legally transfer a property. So what you need a living trust for is to take care of all legalities after death. A living trust is ironclad. So whatever is in that trust, that's what has to be done. Whatever directives are in that trust. So if you have medical directives, if there's something that you want, if you have a DNR, so I have living trust. All my properties are in my living trust. Even my medical directives are in my living trust. My bank account is in my living trust. I have all that information in my living trust. So if something were to happen to me, you go directly to that living trust, and it tells you exactly how I want things to happen. And there's nothing that anybody can do or say legally to deter or change what my directions are in that living trust. Do you understand? So Althea said, what is the difference between a will and a living trust? That's what I was just saying. So a will just really gives directions. A living trust is the legal, it binds whatever the living trust says, or whatever your directions are, right? So again, a will, yeah, I can say, yes, I want to leave the property to my son. And when he goes to sell it, it's fine, as long as he's living in the property, as long as he keeps the property. But as soon as he decides to sell it, or if somebody says, hey, Uncle John said that I was entitled to the property and we have to sell it, well, now we have to go into probate court. And now that's going to cost money in order to go into probate court. So a will is simply not enough when you're passing your property from one person to another. I've had so many situations. So my mom told me one thing. She said, when it comes to death and money, that's when things get real ugly. And I've seen it time and time and time again. When it comes to death and money, that's when ish get real ugly. So what ends up happening is, if there are no specific instructions and anything that's legally binding, anybody can say anything. Like I said, I had siblings that were fighting each other, that were saying, no, mama said, and mama didn't put it in the living trust. So whatever had to happen, the probate judge had to decide how that was going to happen. So now they're thinking, oh, we're just going to sell the house. A couple of them wanted to, and a couple of them didn't want to. Well, the judge had to decide, and they had to pay the judge. They had to go to probate court and pay thousands of dollars for them to decide, even though they had instructions on a will on what they wanted to do. So that's the difference between a living trust and a will. Kyrie, come open the door. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. My son just came home. So, Quinn said facts. My husband had a will, but I still have to go to probate court. You're absolutely right. So no matter what happens in the will, no matter what the directions are, you still have to go to court should something happen. If there's any directions, hey baby, if there's any directions that, or any legalities that need to happen. A living trust is not that hard. Just the thing about it is, a whole lot of people don't know about how to set up a living trust. And you can get an attorney to do this. You can get a paralegal to do this. Chris said, open the damn door. That's the beauty of being alive. You can get an attorney, you can get a paralegal. There's even a site called 299trust.com. And that's actually, I've used that many of times. I set my mama up on it. I set my daddy up on it. And it's only $299. I'm giving them free advertisement, but it's one of the cheapest places that I've seen Living Trust, because I've seen Living Trust go from either, from $1,000 on the low end to $4,000 or $5,000. So you can go get a trust set up for $299, $299trust.com. That'll set everything up. Only thing you have to do is you have to fill out a questionnaire. It's an attorney. And I've seen, again, I've done it for my parents. I've done it for a lot of people in my family. And I've talked to different notaries and title companies, and they said that this Living Trust that this organization or this company has been one of the most solid trusts that they've actually seen. So if you don't have one, I recommend going to 299trust.com. Caitlin said, I would want them to stick together no matter what. And that's the thing. Again, when it comes to death and when it comes to money, I've seen, as soon as somebody's body ain't even cold yet, and people are going in and they're taking, how people get, they going in and they taking jewelry, they taking clothes, they taking furniture. I've had people, they hadn't even taken the body out yet. Okay. And folks is taking furniture out the doggone house. Folks get real crazy when it comes to money and death. And that's the reason why you have to make sure. And this is one of the things that I told my mother-in-law. When my father-in-law was sick, when he was sick on his deathbed, I told him, hold on one second. If you guys don't quit slamming that door. I told my mother-in-law, if you don't want your kids to hate each other, yeah, the door keep slamming. If you don't want your kids to hate each other, then you need to get a living trust set up. Because one thing, I'm telling you, if you don't have your directive set up and there's not a clear understanding and something happens, one sibling may want to sell it, one sibling may want to keep it, and then it becomes turmoil. So you need to have directives already set up, not in just a will. And even if you have directives in the will, okay, you got a will, so now you've outlined what it is that you want to do. But it's still going to have to go to court. They're still going to have to go to court, get it approved. It's going to cost thousands of dollars, and it's going to be time consuming. A will is not going to help. A will, yes, it's cheaper. You can get a will. I think you probably go to Rocket Lawyer or LegalZoom and get a will done like that. Probably for $24, $99 or whatever. But in order to make sure that it's legal and that it's legally binding, you're going to have to get a living trust. 3BI said, my grandmother is healthy and family members take things from her house already. I mean, that, how people are. Okay. Hold on one second. Warren. Yes. I'm going to jack you up. I'm back. So anyway, so basically, that's what it is. So if you have any questions, must have advance directives written out with a lawyer. Start with a living will. A will is okay. A will is okay. You need a living trust. A living will is just okay. A living will is not legally binding, though. A will is not going to be legally binding. So again, if something should happen, a will is not enough. It can be contested. The judge ultimately decides what happens. If you have a living trust, that's legally binding. There's nothing that anybody can do to change a living trust. A will can be changed because they could decide, a judge can decide, somebody can say, well, he really wasn't in his right mind when he did this will. Or they could, anything could come up. A trust, they have to follow directions. And I'm telling you, that's one of the easiest ways. Like when I have clients that pass away, when there's a living trust in place and the children are responsible, we have a living trust. It's the easiest, smoothest sale there is. I have one of my agents that specializes in probate. That's all she does. She has to go down to the probate court. She has to get in contact with the probate lawyer. She has to go through all these things. It is a process. And then if you have one sibling that doesn't want to sell, and I mean, it becomes a mess, and it becomes time consuming. And then they end up, they may end up selling, but that process may take a year. It may take 2 years. It depends on how long this person wants to hold out and all the other shenanigans that can happen. If there was a living trust, if this person doesn't want to sell and the living trust said, sell upon my death, guess what? We sell it. And there's nothing they can do about it. There's no probate. There's no contesting. There's nothing. So a will is okay, but it's just directions. It's just a directive. A living trust is what's legally binding, and nobody can stop a living trust. Kaylin said, I truly feel, Kaylin said, I truly feel that you should explain to them, I will provide for you and give you everything being on this earth, and it should get passed around generation to generation. That in my opinion, but you're right though. I mean, it's easy to say one thing, but when you have it in writing and it's legally binding, that sets a whole nother level to what it is that you want for your children. And the reason why I brought this up really is because it's really about legacy. It's really about wealth building. And this is in the vein of wealth building. Again, everything I talk to you about are things that I do. Everything I talk to you about are things that I have done. Living trust is extremely important. I've seen the bad that comes with not having a living trust. I've seen the bad of not having all of your affairs in order. So one of the things that you should do today, because you never know, you can walk outside and you can get into a car accident, anything can happen. Do you have your life insurance intact? If you do not have life insurance, get life insurance. If there's any life insurance agents within this thread, post your company. I'm not a life insurance agent, but post your company, your information in the comments box. Get life insurance. Time out for doing GoFundMe's. Thank God we ain't seeing car washes and chicken dinners no more, but we got to get our stuff together. If you have a job, there's no reason why you should be raising funds for people to bury you. So please, please, please get life insurance. Number one. Okay. Number two, please, please, please write down all of your pertinent information and put it in a place where your family can reach it. So your bank account information, write it down. Who's your bank account with? Who's the beneficiary on your bank account? What's your bank account number? How can they get access? Okay. Number three, if you have life insurance, write that information down. If you have a living trust or if you have a will, let people know where this stuff is. Put all of your information on one sheet, all pertinent phone numbers, your medical insurance, all on one sheet. So if anything should happen to you, they know exactly where to go. There's nothing worse, and I've seen it time and time again, when you have your parents who have life insurance, but nobody knows where to get it. Nobody knows where to look for it. I think mama had life insurance, but I have no idea where. And mama been paying for life insurance for the last 20, 30 years. And now you guys can't even get the money to bury her because mama didn't tell you guys where it was. So make sure you have it in a secure place. Make sure you have, if you don't do anything tonight after this broadcast, write down where all your information, all of your important information. Who's what are your medical directives? Do you want to do not resuscitate? Get a DNR, fill that out. If something should happen to you, I don't want them to resuscitate me, or I do want them to resuscitate. My mama told me, because when we were doing her living trust, because there are medical directives in there, and there's a DNR in there, and like I was, okay, mom signed this. She's like, oh, no. I want you to keep me on life support as long as possible, because I might wake up. Don't not resuscitate me. So if you don't want to be resuscitated, or if you want to be resuscitated, make sure people know what your wishes are. Because we don't know the day or the hour that something's going to happen to us. And your family members are already grieving for you. And the worst thing that you could do is not have your affairs in order to where they can have access, easy, quick access to it. So please, that is your homework assignment. Write down all that information. Write down, your bank account information. Make sure you have a beneficiary on your bank account, because if something should happen to you, your kids need to have access to your funds. Time out for the GoFundMe. Go get some life insurance agents. Make sure you put your information on there so people could get that information and contact you so they can get life insurance. Make sure that they know what your wishes are. And please, if you have property, especially if you have property, make sure you get a living trust. So the difference between a trust is a will is just directions. That's just your wishes. It's what you want. A living trust is legally binding. A will can still be contested. A trust cannot be contested. A will, you still may have to go to a probate court. A trust, you will not have to go to a probate court. Everything is very clean, very straightforward. You can have a living trust set up today by going to 299trust.com. All right. So Michael said, first time on the show, headline caught my attention because I just lost my father. But the crazy part is his kids had to pay for everything. Bert, tell them the truth about the unknown life insurance. Bert is a life insurance agent. Bert, make sure you put your information, your contact information in there so that people can know how to contact you. I saw somebody else, I think Mr. Stallworth, Michael Stallworth, I can't see, put his information on there so people can contact him about life insurance. Yeah, Michael Stallworth. Adia said living wills and trusts cover different things. Also choose power of attorney over your medical decisions. People not only fight over money, but they also fight over medical. I'm glad you said that, Adia Jumani, because you're absolutely right. And also in your living trust, you can also choose a power of attorney. I mean, all of that is in your living trust package. So go to 299trust.com. You will be able to establish your power of attorney. You will be able to set up your medical directives, how you want them, your bank accounts, everything is all in that package. So go to 299trust.com. Actually, you can set up your will and your trust all from that website. So go to 299trust.com. All right. Marthella McWilson. I'm glad you said that. Marthella is one of my agents, and Marthella is one of the agents that is always dealing with probate. Marthella is my probate expert because she always has the same people or different people, but she always has people that have the same issues. And you always have that one stray person, right, Marthella? You always have that one sibling who wants to do something, who wants to veer to the left, which causes the process to take a lot longer. But if you have a living trust, she said, if you don't, you're going to be in court. If you have a living trust, you don't have to worry about being in court. And Marthella is probably one of the most patient agents that we have, because you do have to deal with, when you're dealing with probate and wills, you have to have patience. First of all, as an agent, we have to be sensitive to people, what they're going through. And then when you're dealing with siblings, 2, 3, 4, 5 siblings, you have to be sensitive to each one of them. And then, it'd be the one, Marthella will tell you, it'll be the one that's not even in the same state, that ain't seen mom and daddy for the last 15 years, that want to have the most say about what happens. And you don't want that. You don't want that for your kids. If you love your kids, if you love your family, you want to make sure that they have the easiest time possible. Because again, they're already dealing with you being gone. They're already grieving. Don't make it harder for them. I've seen people not talk for years because of fallout over money and property. So if you want your kids to stay connected, if you want your kids to still love each other, if you want your kids, to be able to have something to leave a legacy to them and their children, make sure that you're responsible. Get that life insurance, get that living trust set up, especially if you have a property, and then everything will be okay. Sherry Hawkins, that is concerning. However, both mom and dad should be on the same page or close. I don't know if Sherry Hawkins said something. Ms. Blake said, thank you, Constance, for blessing us with your knowledge. You are very welcome. Thank you for tuning in today. Marthella said, I've seen fights in the courthouse when they don't have their living trust set up, when they got to go to probate. She said, I've seen fights in the courthouse. I should have had you on here today, Marthella, when you don't have your stuff set up. So this can be detrimental to the breakdown of your family. And we all know, we were just talking about this the other day, especially in the Black families. When Big Mama was there, when Maria was there, we were going to family reunions every other year, and we were getting together as a family. But then when Big Mama died, we stopped getting together, and the family fractured more and more, and little by little. And we already know when the matriarch and the patriarchs go away, it fractures the family just a little bit more. And so you don't want this to be something else that fractures your family even more. So make sure that, it's not a hard thing to do. 299trust.com is where you can go to get a living trust set up. Bert said the emotional duress is quickly followed by the financial stress. Powerful reminder to be a blessing and not a burden upon your passing. Thank you so much, Bert. All right, you guys. Michael said, how about a child that's not even there? Listen, Michael, you ain't even lying about that. A child that's not even theirs could come in and contest. Like I said, a cousin from Alabama, you in California, cousin says, hey, Uncle Johnny said that he was giving this house to me. And that could cause a delay and that can cause a fight. But if you have a living trust, you ain't got to worry about none of that. Cousin come calling and talking about, Uncle Johnny said I can have this. Well, is it in the trust? No? All right, let's move on. There's nothing to see here, right? But if you just have a will, cousin can contest it. You don't got to be a child. You can be a friend. You can say, "Oh, I'm your daddy's lover," and your daddy said that I was entitled to this. What happened to James Brown? James Brown's body was sitting up at the mortuary for like a year or something crazy because he didn't have his directive set up. He didn't have his living trust set up, right? So we have to make sure that we take care of business. I think Prince didn't have a living trust. These people with all this money, and now people have to go fighting in court over their estate. So even with the little that we do have, make sure that your folks are protected. Sherry Hawkins, mom should support it. Mom should not be tossed aside after dad passes in favor of the kids. Kids did not take care of dad's needs while he was alive. That was mom's responsibility. All right. What about air property like land with siblings? What about air property like land with siblings? Same thing. Same thing. If it's property, it will be the same thing, and it will require the same thing. Prince died without a trust. Absolutely. So anyway, I think that is all I want to talk about tonight. So you guys, if you have any other questions, listen, I have masterminding. If you want any further, further clarification on anything that I've talked about or that I'm any information I'm giving you so far, go to ConstanceCarterVIP.com and sign up. And we'll do a little bit more masterminding on the back end. But again, I am giving you information that I know, things that I do within my life. It's extremely important. And as you get more property, so if you have a living trust, as you get more property, make sure as you get more property, you add the property to the living trust, and you add that property to the living trust, and you add that property to the living trust. Make sure you don't leave anything out. Because even if you have 3 properties and you got a 4th, that 4th property could go into probate if anything happens. So just make sure that you're keeping everything up to date. It's not a hard process. Only thing that you have to do when you go to 299trust.com, again, you fill out a questionnaire. You could talk to the people, and then you get a notary, comes out. You need a witness. They'll come out. They notarize your documents. You send it on over. You send it over to the title company. You get it recorded, and you're done. You have a copy. Make sure you keep a copy of that living trust in a safe place, maybe in a safe that somebody knows about. But on title, it'll say who's responsible. It'll refer like your title, your deed to your house. It'll reference the living trust. And so we'll need to see, like, if you want to sell it, we'll need to see a copy of the living trust so we'll know what the directives are. To make sure that the documents are in a safe place. Put it online. I keep everything in Dropbox on the cloud. So I make sure, I try to keep as minimal paper as possible, but I do have some stuff in my safe. But just, put it online, put it on Dropbox. That way you could have access to your documents anywhere you go. All right. Linda Nelson said, I called you, Queen. Please help me. Okay, Linda, I didn't get the call, but I'll make sure I'll look for my phone. Thank you so much. Aboriginal peoples need someone to trust. Awesome. Facts, spooky, and share with everybody you know. Thank you, Dual. Thank you. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings. You guys have an awesome night. Marthella, thank you for joining me. Marthella is, if you know somebody who died with or without a living trust, call Marthella McWilson. Call Marthella McWilson. She is an expert. It ain't the easiest thing, but she's an expert at probate. Real estate, selling your probate properties, but that is not fun. She said she's seen people fighting up in the courthouse. I don't want that kind of drama. But if you don't got your stuff set up, your kids will be fighting up in the courthouse. They will hate each other. All right. Take care and God bless. Peace.